welcome to Chaotic Riff TV. My name is Jason J. Rock Houston, and our special guest today is lead singer Melanie Johnson from the band Second Shooter. We may have some other guys from the band joining us, but we're going to go and start the interview. And so, Melanie, I always love to ask people because I know one of the hardest things is coming up with a band name. Second Shooter, kind of like, I wonder what that's about. How did you guys come up with that?
So they had it before I joined, but the idea was to sort of make it ambiguous. Like, is it like a JFK assassination, like conspiracy theory reference? Is it like, I don't know, it's like a photography term at events? Like, it's just kind of supposed to make people think like, oh, that's kind of weird. What's
Still
that
talking,
about?
yeah. So let me ask you. I know very little bit about the band, and so you obviously. How new are you to the band?
Sorry.
How new are you to the band? Like, when did you join the band?
Oh, I joined. So the five of us have been all working together in the band since 2018. So a while.
And so, the previous singer was it a guy, a female? I was just curious about.
Yeah, they went through a few singers. I'm the first woman, but there's actually a kind of weird story about their first singer that they
Okay.
were with for a few years. He's actually in prison for murdering his wife.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty metal. I mean, it's actually like a
I
horrific
wonder.
story.
I
It's
wonder if
really
the name had
sad.
anything to do with that. Not to get into conspiracy theories, but okay. Yeah. Well, that's a shame. Had to
It
end that
is.
way.
It's very sad, but like in the abstract, it's like, wow, that's metal, you know?
I get you. I get you. Um, and so, as far as going with a female singer, was it just that did they audition singers and they just felt you were the best one, or I mean,
Yeah, exactly. Like they were open to whoever and they held auditions and yeah, they
and
like
here's a crazy question. So since you've been in the band, how much of the older material do they perform, or they just kind of perform the stuff, moving ahead with what you've done?
there's one song that they had recorded and performed with their last singer that we still perform with me in it, and we put it on the EP that we released together. But also there are a couple songs that we released in our first EP. I think it was either two or three, where they were like, we liked the instrumental. We didn't really like what our last singer did with it, so they had me write on top of it. I think that was two songs. So in a way, we're playing old stuff, but all of it like has my spin on it as well.
And excuse me for saying this, but I got to tell people, they may look at you and get one kind of image, and what I mean by that is, I was surprised, like when watching the video for 1 in 6, because you guys are kind of described, which I would agree with, kind of extreme metal, and to look at you, you would not, most people would not think that voice would come out of you.
Yeah, even just from my speaking voice, they're like, is that?
Yeah, you're so soft spoken, and then when I was listening to that song and watching the video, I'm like, wow, she's got some power to her voice.
Yeah, no one sees it coming. It's always fun.
And is that something that you've worked at as a singer? Like, did you always want to have that kind of voice, or is it something that just like a natural gift that you're born with?
I honestly, it did come to me really easily. Yeah. I started 7 years ago, and I joined the band a year later because I wasn't like really good yet, but I was like good enough that they would like take a
Well, you're in
chance
your
on me.
prime now. You got the job, and you got a paying gig, so there is something to be said for that. I mean, these guys are moving forward. I guess. Okay, Jeff Clark, who is the bass player, he's getting ready to jump on, so um, we'll wait for Jeff to get on. But yeah, just some powerful stuff. And hello, Jeff.
Hi,
So, my name
sorry
is
about
Jake.
that.
That's all right. She
We
explained you were in
were
another
literally
interview.
in the middle of another interview.
No worries. We're used to that. So we just got started with Melanie Barely, and she was kind of talking about the fact that you guys had a previous singer and told us kind of how she got in with the band, and you guys are moving forward with her. So, talk about when it was time to start looking for a new singer. What were you guys looking for? I mean, was it one of these things where you said, we want somebody that sounds exactly like the previous singer, or what were you looking for?
Hey, Travis, you're muted.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Here
there
you
we
go.
are. Can
All
you
right.
hear?
So since
My name,
Travis is the one that hired Mel, why don't you answer that question there,
Hey,
Travis?
oh,
yeah.
it was a. The easy answer is it's a no-brainer. When you
Yeah.
meet Mel and you see her enthusiasm for anything but particularly metal and screaming, it was an easy decision. The other part of the answer would be we didn't want somebody who sounded anything like any of the previous guys, because I'll be honest with you, some of the guys who came through and auditioned, I mean, it was rough, man. Great talents and stuff like that, but there was a lot of baggage, or they had no car, or
Yeah.
I mean, you've probably heard it all with
Yeah, sure.
musicians, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't make you a bad person, and doesn't make, but one of the things that stood out for Mel is she lives in LA. I'm talking in the middle of LA, and like, she doesn't own a car. She Ubers everywhere, and she is always on time.
That's
And like
super
when
impressive. That's super.
it's so awesome. And
When
she,
I first joined, I was living in like Long Beach, and they're in the valley, so
Hey,
that's
Long
why,
Beach.
like,
Long Beach
over.
coming to you right now from Long Beach.
Oh, okay.
Awesome.
All right.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so cool. Yeah, so I was living in Long Beach, and we're based in Sylmar. So
Wow.
I was doing that twice a week, Ubering up
Melanie,
there.
that's some dedication, and
Yeah.
and like Jeff was saying, that's quite impressive, because I get what he's saying about the previous singer. Nothing against somebody that is having issues, but it shows your dedication to what you do, and that you know how important it is for these guys to get gigs, and you got to show up to the gig, So I could see, and like I was saying, Jeff and Travis, before you guys came on, I was talking to Melanie that you look at Melanie, and even to talk to her, she's very soft spoken, but like I was watching the 1 in 6 video, and you guys are described as kind of an extreme metal band, and man, the power of that voice coming out of her, I mean, is totally full blown metal.
Yep. We were just talking to someone else about that, about when we do our sound checks or when we play shows, people see her, and you can't really tell from this picture, but she's kind of diminutive, and she gets up there and just starts screaming in the microphone, and it just takes people back. They're not ready for it.
Yeah.
And because she just belts it out, and it's pretty impressive, and we enjoy the shock that people, they weren't expecting it. And
It's almost like I can see in watching the video, when you guys were filming, I'm sure just kind of that aggression comes over her. I mean, the whole band, and it's all again full blown on metal. I mean, she could give Bruce Dickinson a run for his money, Yeah.
A very different style, admittedly,
Yeah,
but yeah, no, she could be right up there with Ginger or Venom Prison or Whitechapel, any of those. Yeah, she's got a good voice on her.
And so I'd like to go around the room, have you guys each talk about some of your influences. We'll start off with you, Melanie. As a singer, like, who are the singers that were your heroes growing up that really inspired you to do what you're doing?
That's a great question, because like I just like have inspiration from like so many genres and like different kinds of inspiration. So first of all, Angela Gasso from Arch Enemy was always like, like years and years before I even thought about starting music, she's the reason it like never occurred to me that women wouldn't be able to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like only when I started doing it and realized like, oh, it's actually really, really rare. And I was like, but I never like, yeah. So that got in my head early, is like, oh wow, like women can totally do this.
What's funny, Melanie? When I was growing up, I'll tell you guys, give my age here. 52, but when I was growing up, the primary female singers you had were Doro Pesh, Lita Ford, and Joan Jett, and those were like the 3 hard rock chicks. Now we got the Butcher Babies and all these other singers that you mentioned.
it's
how
awesome.
about you, Jeff? As far as bass players, who are your 4-string heroes growing up?
Steve Harris, for sure, of Iron Maiden. He's the one that kind of inspired me to want to pick up the bass. When I first started playing, I didn't really know what a bass was, and then I watched a VHS of Live After Death, and I just saw him playing. I'm like, I want to do what that guy's doing. I don't know what it is, but I want to be that.
Yeah. Live After Death, I got to say, recorded Long Beach Arena. So another shout out to Long Beach. But I used to think, a bass is what, just a 4-string guitar, right?
Yeah. If you do it right, it's very different. But him, Geezer Butler was also a big influence on me when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And then, I got a little bit older and started getting into thrash, of course, Cliff Burton, because, there aren't many metalhead bass players that don't like Cliff Burton.
Yeah, let me ask you, Jeff, how involved are you with the songwriting as well? The reason I asked that, all those guys you mentioned, Steve Harris, for example, I mean, he does most of the writing. I think a lot of people surprised to find out Geezer Butler was one that wrote all the lyrics on those classic Ozzy Sabbath era albums, not Ozzy. And And I heard him say, interviews over years, once Ronnie joined, there's no more of a need for me to do it because I don't want to compete with, but either, what a great writer.
Yeah. I'd actually say most people would be surprised how often the bass players in metal bands are very involved in the writing process. It's a little bit more than I think most people realize. Bass in metal,
example.
Yeah, it doesn't get a lot of the attention. The vocals and the guitars definitely do. But I personally am very involved in the writing process. I wrote the lyrics for a few of the songs. I wrote the music for a few of the songs. A lot of times we have riffs and people bring those in, and I help arrange the music a little bit. It's a very democratic process. We definitely all have our own say in the music. No one person's just writing everything. But yes, I am very, very involved in the writing process.
How about you, Travis? Who are your guitar heroes? I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume maybe Zakk Wylde's one.
The numero uno, man. That's
yeah.
Zakk Wylde is my number one. Eddie Van Halen, Carlos Cavaz from Quiet Riot.
Wow.
These are early.
Yeah.
But I gotta be honest. When Miracle Man came out, No Rest for the Wicked, that Ozzy album, and I heard Zakk Wylde for the first time, I'm doing it on a Walkman, dude, with a cassette in there. If you there's a anyways, he's like, dude, you got to hear this one song, and I just sat there on the grass, Indian style, like I wouldn't give him his phones, but I was
Miracle Man was the first thing like a lot of people heard when Zakk Wylde, first joined Ozzy's band. Another great, riff of Zakk's off of that album is Always Loved Crazy Babies.
Yep.
The whole album, dude. We could go A to Z on that album. And
No Rest for the Wicked is an underrated album. It's a very good album.
Sure.
Loved it. Love Zakk. And then for like Jim Root from Slipknot, I get a lot from him. And obviously Pantera, man, Dimebag, the one and only. Because I like it. I've always really. That's why Miracle Man, No Rest for the Wicked really appealed to me, because it was a little edgier than a lot of the other stuff at the time, and Zakk had a lot to do with that. Just his attack on the guitar. So. And
Zakk and Dime were great friends, and I don't know if you ever got to hear the Black Label song "In This River," but it's a great tribute to Dime. If you ever seen the video. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. Love Zakk, man.
And what do you think about? I think it's kind of fitting, if you know what I mean. There's a lot of controversy about Pantera being out there, but I think Zakk doing it, it's a fitting tribute,
So my opinion on that, and I've had this conversation a million times with my friends, is when Pantera decided to call it quits, and they kind of went their separate ways and everything like that. I said the only time Pantera would be worth listening to is if Zakk stepped in for Dimebag. And I literally made that statement. And this is, of course, after Dimebag passed away. I said, well, there goes the chances for Pantera. But if it does happen, the only person I would even entertain, it would be Zakk. And he's done a great job.
Yeah. And he's not going. He's doing respectfully, obviously because he knew Dime, but he's not going there trying to,
it's great. Yeah.
And obviously, Melanie's a great singer and songwriter, but I imagine, Travis and Jeff, you kind of being the original guys, you want to still be involved with the songwriting because you're like, we want to protect the band's legacy, the sound.
Sure.
Actually, I came into the band last. So actually, the most original members were Travis and Jim, the drummer. And to tell you the truth, we all contribute equally to the music. Travis writes a lot of the riffs for sure. But yeah, we all have equal input on what's going on in the band for sure. We all have our influences and we all influence the way the music sounds.
And Travis, so I understand there's another guitar player in the band. What's that like? How do you guys go about splitting your guitar parts?
Win is, first of all, fantastic. He's just awesome. And he's probably the best person I've ever worked with as far as like being on the other side of the stage with 6 strings. It's awesome. Win is he contributes in so many different ways. I'll come up I'll come up with a riff, I'll bring it in, you know, we'll all listen to it or whatever, and then I'll just with words I'll be like, Win, what I'm hearing over this, and while I'm explaining it to him, he's already playing it like over the riff, and I'm like, dude, like he's reading my mind. And so that's kind of why this project came together really well. And we're very proud about Fury Made Flesh, the new album. It'll be out in 1 week from today.
The 19th. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. And we are so proud. Like, look at us. The three of us are all, just me explaining it. We're all geeked. And I mean, it's not just because we wrote it or whatever, but we wanted to write something that we were proud to put out there. You know, we are a unique band. Everybody says that about their band. I get it. But come the 19th, people will, I think they'll hear it, and I think they'll like it.
In all honesty, I haven't heard the complete album, but I will say this: what impressed me about the band so far, but what I've heard is, I think you guys accomplished something that's very hard to do. Oftentimes, you'll hear a new band for the first time, or a band that's been around, they're putting out their latest product, and you'll hear some of their influences coming out. But what I think is really unique about Second Shooter is you got a real original sound. It's not to say that there aren't other extreme metal bands out there, but you don't sound like Metallica. You don't sound like Black Sabbath. You just sound like you're doing your own thing, which I think is a hard thing to accomplish, but you've accomplished it.
That is the greatest compliment you can give us, because that's 100% what we're going for.
And you mentioned that was coming out next Monday, to be exact. And another, I think, thing we should make people aware of, but I think it's super cool. Doesn't happen too often these days. Is the tour kicks off the same day the album is out.
It is. It's like the perfect storm, man. And we get to, we're definitely going to benefit from that. We're very pumped up about it. Yep, Fury Made Flesh comes out the 19th, next 1 week from today, Friday.
And so let's talk about the video for 1 in 6. What is 1 in 6 exactly about? It sounds like a statistic. I just kind of curious. 1 in 6.
Yeah, so like in general, so this was like the second like song that I, like wrote the vocals for. And I was like, well, what do I want to say? And I was like, okay, I kind of have a like unique voice in this genre because there aren't a lot of women. And I was like, let me just like express some of my frustration about just being a woman existing. So like my favorite line in it is like, you stopped me in my tracks and asked me to smile. We fucking gave you life and you took a mile. Just kind of like that general sort of like, sometimes you sort of feel that resentment about how we're treated in society. 1 in 6 is a stat that I saw. There's a lot of stats floating around, but it was what I found for how many women are a victim of attempted or completed rape.
Wow.
So yeah, that's pretty high. And like there's a lot of numbers like that. And it's just like, yeah.
And it's interesting, Melanie, and listening to the song is I'm typically a guy that listens hard rock and metal. I listen from everything from Kiss, Whitesnake, Blue Oyster Cult, Van Halen, a little bit of everything, And so in listening to like the video or watching the video, like the vocals are so kind of in your face. Typically when I listen to a song, I'm trying to figure out what the song is about. And the vocals are kind of so extreme and in your face. It doesn't even matter to me. It's for once, it doesn't really seem to matter what the words are, what it's about. I know that sounds funny, but I got so into the song, the aggressiveness, the heaviness. It's a unique situation to say that I'm not really paying attention to the words. It's just like kind of getting turned on. They're so loud and aggressive.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is something about death metal that I think some people who don't understand the genre kind of miss, is that the vocals themselves are one of the other instruments. In a lot of other music, it's the focal point. The guitar, the bass, the drums are kind of backdrop for the vocals. But in death metal, the vocals are there to kind of be part of that energy. And it maybe sometimes doesn't matter as much as what they're saying. It's the force with which they're saying it.
And I know it sounds funny to say, talking to you guys about the fact that you wrote these songs. And so, of course, it matters to you what the song's about. But I do kind of think that that's a typical fan that listens to this type of music, like you're saying, Jeff. that's kind of the attitude. It doesn't really matter what it's about, which is kind of
Yeah.
a strange thing to be saying.
It
Well,
is.
especially with the vocals being harder to like make out what the words are, that,
Kind of like
But
listening to a Slayer song. I'm not, it's kind of just a bunch of screaming. I'm not sure what they're saying, but hey, it sounds cool.
right. And sometimes those vocals being said that way give it extra weight, because how else would you purvey that message? How else would you convey the idea? And with the music the way it is, how else would you do the vocals with with something as fast and as aggressive as what we're playing? What other possible way could you do to deliver
Yeah.
these
So when you guys
lyrics?
get in that creative process and you're writing the songs, like when these songs are written and you start recording them for this new album coming out next week, you all get in a room together. Like you just kind of does she do her thing on the vocals, just kind of scat vocals and jam it out, and it's the song kind of progresses.
So
What's your thought?
they can speak to the the songwriting instrumentals, but generally I actually really only do the vocals after like it's pretty like much in shape. The rest of
Okay,
it. Not like
okay.
everything's super ironed out, but like there's like a basic,
And so Jeff, how tight are you and the drummer as far as a rhythm, being a tight rhythm section?
Actually, very good. Jim's a great drummer. He's got a good sense of time. I lock in with him real well. I don't have to babysit him. There's been a few drummers in my past where I've had to like, okay, you here? You on the right beat? And I don't have to do that with him, which is nice. But yeah, me and him sync up real good. I know that's really important to how the music works. Yeah, we work together pretty good, and we communicate really well on the beats. And sometimes I'll give him ideas for the drums as far as what I think would work well in a song that I've written.
So with the tour kicking off next week, have you guys been rehearsing much, or?
Oh yeah.
A ton.
Yeah.
You guys like do like Travis? Do you do guitar solo or anything like that during the show?
Like not like a guitar solo where it's just me or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a few solos that I take in individual songs. Same with Win. The thing about this tour, and we're super happy to be on it, is we got a half an hour set each night, which we feel privileged to have that, especially with Go Ahead and Die and Body Box coming on after, and we're just super pumped to be with these guys. So we just want to give them like everything right in their face, just make the blood happen out in the pit, and then just kind of drop our instrument. We would never do that, but just kind of come and just give it to them raw, and then get off, that kind of thing.
I was curious, you guys talking a little bit about being on stage. Do you ever get in that get in that moment, like you've probably gone to some of your favorite concerts and the guy just starts wailing his guitar and and beating it and breaking it apart? Ever do anything crazy like that?
I've never done that. I've had to work hard to get that gear because I don't have an endorsement yet. So when you play as long as I have and you go for the gear that I go for, like
making it last, right?
Yeah, you got to make it. You got to make it last. If anybody wants to endorse me,
hey, there you go. Who knows after this tour kicks off? The songs on the new album coming out, I was curious, were they songs that were written specifically for this album? Have they been older tracks that have just been waiting to find a home?
I think that the majority of it was written for this. They were songs that were written over time. It took us, I don't know, maybe 3 years or something to write all the tracks. We may have had some riffs in our back pocket that we came up with, like one of the songs, Set Adrift, is something that I had written years back and then finally put together as a song. But none of this is old material, I think, from other bands. None of this is all us. This is the 5 of us together writing this music.
Yeah. So being that you guys are on this tour, have about 30 minutes a night to play or whatever for your set, probably going to be mostly newer material, right, off this new album?
Yes. We are so fired up about that, dude, and nervous because, we did the studio sessions and we rocked it out, and there was a couple songs that, we had just written like right before the deadline of turning this album in for our label, Into Records. And so we didn't get a ton of time to rehearse a lot of it. So like now we're taking that time to just it's just gonna, we're very well rehearsed. We're professional. So like, we're always conscious about that kind of stuff. So
And I gotta get a huge shout out to our friends at Chipster PR for helping set this up today.
Yep.
And I'm doing that because they've given me a lot of great interviews over years, and you guys are the latest ones. And I'm bringing it up also because let people know, you guys are a relatively new band. You've been around for, you said, about five years now or so. But this band happens to have the same publicist as Michael Schenker, Albert Bouchard, the drummer from Blue Oyster Cult, Judas Priest. So
yeah,
how does a band like this hook up with such a great PR firm? Because I think too, that said a lot about a band like this, that you guys are kind of still up and coming, but you've got a lot of powerful people working for you behind the scenes.
yeah. So Denise Dale,
Yeah.
who we work with through Into Records, she she did a lot of work for us, shopped our EP early, and we decided to go with the artist friendly situation she offered us.
Yeah.
And with that came Chipster and the great work that he's doing. And from everyone we've heard from email or whatever, from Chipster, from that firm, they've been nothing but fantastic, man.
And I got to put that out there again, only because not that you guys aren't a great band on your own, but I want people to know that's the kind of people you have working with you. And to be honest, I would never heard of Second Shooter if I didn't have any association with these people, And I'm like kind of thinking today after talking to you guys noon dinner, well, thanks for turning me on to this great band,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so cool. Yeah, that's how we're very fortunate. And I know, he does his homework. He does great work.
He's got it. They've got they represent, hard rock and metal bands, everything, and then even some other type of like classic rock stuff. And they're very artist friendly. I feel that's what I like about them. And they got everything like a newer bands like you to, some of those other bands I mentioned like Judas Priest that have been around for years, but very, very good company. Now let's before we wrap it up today, let's tell people how they can get their hands on the new album. It comes out next Monday. And I guess the great thing to ask is, can they get physical CDs, vinyl? Is it just going to be released digitally? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Jeff, you want to take? Yeah,
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah.
So we do have a physical CD that'll be available. Actually, Travis, do you still have the copy in front of you?
Yep.
Right
So
there.
it's like
beautiful.
this.
I love that. Yeah.
So that's and then this and all that. There's the CD, and then there's a lyric sheet in that little pocket right there, and then that's the back.
Yeah, and I'm not being funny here, but I got to ask. I love the album cover. Was that all? Is that little animation all inspired by Melanie?
Only insofar that we focused a lot of our music on kind of feminine motifs, but it's actually based on one of the songs, Bringer of Death, that features the Hindu goddess Kali, and that's what we based that on. We worked with a artist named David Paul Seymour. We presented him with that idea and that lyric from the song and kind of drew that up. And the title "Fury Made Flesh" is actually one of the lines from that song.
I love stuff like that, Jeff. I'm a very visual guy. I too am a huge fan of Iron Maiden. One thing I always loved is their artwork. Like they're a very interesting band that they've never put the band's like photo on the front cover. It's always
Right.
Eddie. So like that little art thing on there on the cover, is that going to be kind of like your equivalent of an Eddie like type of mascot, or do you think you will change it up every album and have
I think you just gave us a wonderful idea about it.
Yeah, if it hadn't before, maybe it will be. It was more just drawn from one of the songs.
Yeah.
And you're right, album art does mean a lot. We wanted something that would stick out and had a lot of color. There's a lot of bands in our genre that don't really explore some of the tonal palettes that you could, that'll jump out of the rack.
I'm an old school guy, I miss the days of going to the record store. There used to be these places you could go besides Amazon.com and buy the albums, and they'd have them. You
could spend a whole day doing that stuff, man.
Right.
That's a great Saturday right there.
Yeah. and a lot of artwork, like I miss those days. So the fact that bands are putting out CDs and they're putting out vinyl if they can do it, it's a great thing because you get to see that beautiful artwork, and
Right.
it's a little more than just the latest download, if you know what I mean. That's why
Right.
I think it's obviously you guys are new bands, so it kind of there's a need for it, but there are bands that, been maybe got like 10 CDs or something out. You know what? Nobody's buying CDs. We're just going to live on our catalog of music. So I think it's great to have new bands like you guys doing what you're doing.
Right. So yeah, we do have the physical CD. It will be available on our Bandcamp. You can pre-order it now, and we'll ship just before we head out on the road. We also have the digital versions there. We have merch that we also have on the Bandcamp. We also have an EP of remixed and remastered songs that are older material that'll be released. And you can find all that stuff also streaming on Spotify, Tidal, Apple, all the big streaming sites. All that stuff will be available, but you can buy the CD and you can pre-order it now.
And you want to let people know before we wrap it up today, where they can find you on the web? Your website, your official website?
So official website is secondshooterband.com, and that links to all our socials, all our everything. We also have a link tree that's just /secondshooter.
Okay. Well, thanks again, all of you, for taking part in the interview. And as I was telling Melanie before you guys jumped on, we're going to be posting this sometime next week. Once I have a date, I'll let you guys know, and feel free to share it. I hope you guys, as you release more singles, we'll come back on because we'd love to have you back anytime.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. It was really great talking to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Jay.
Have a great weekend, and much luck with the tour kicking off next week and the album.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
bye-bye.
buddy. Thank you. Have a good one.